Good Saturday morning. I'm meteorologist Bekah Birdsall, and we are a weather impact alert for this. Look at all of these winter weather alerts that extends for millions of people in numerous states. In the pink is a winter storm warning, in the dark purple, ice storm warnings, which cover most of the area. And we're already starting to see those impacts. So I'll show you satellite and radar coming up in just a few moments. But we're already starting to see some impacts from that winter weather, especially over towards North Texas, portions of Dallas, already beginning to see those impacts in terms of power outages. This is a monster storm, and I want to get you to the very latest on what we're expecting with this system. That ice storm warning that encompasses most of the area, that goes into effect later on this afternoon, but most of that freezing rain event will be for the entirety of your Sunday. So if you're worried today about power outages, I wouldn't be worried today. I'd be more worried about Sunday and then the lingering impacts with very cold temperatures as we go into early next week. In the pink, those are winter storm warnings, like I mentioned. Those continue for Ashe and Watauga counties. This is going to be a mixture or a mixed bag of all three. Snow, which they're already seeing right now, sleet, and then that transition to freezing rain, which by far will bring the most impacts. So right now, that's what we're looking at. If you can, stay off the roads after 6 o'clock. That's when we'll start to see more sleet move in across the greater Charlotte area, ramping up into freezing rain for Sunday and then lingering impacts into the start of the work week. You'll want to plan ahead today. Power outages likely for days, and you'll want to plan for travel impossible in some areas, which is why we're encouraging you, not scaring you, to just prepare for the worst. So that timeline today, we'll see some snow and some sleet. That best coverage is going to be up towards the mountains and foothills. Some of it will enter the Charlotte area, but it's going to be mainly more late tonight, transitioning into a freezing rain start to finish for your Sunday with very cold temperatures for Monday. That ice is going to have a very hard time of melting, and we'll see a refreeze kind of pattern set up each and every night and morning, which is why we'll definitely see those impacts lingering. We are weather impact alert Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and into early Tuesday morning, as we'll likely see some of the coldest air so far this season. This is what we've got, big picture. We have zoomed out on satellite and radar. We've got this blue and white, that is snow, and then in the pink, that's a wintry mix. So that's sleet, freezing rain, and even some cold rain, even some thunderstorms that we saw over towards Houston. This spans from Dallas, Texas, extending into Arkansas, Memphis, portions of Nashville, all the way up into the Tennessee Valley. So we're starting to see some of this move across their area. This is all due to that low pressure system. That's what's fueling all of the moisture. We also have cold air incoming from the north as well. So as this low continues to track across the southeast, that's going to drive in all that moisture that we're expecting. So right now, we had some snow early on. A lot of that is pushing off, but it took some time for it to overcome some of that drier air. So if you looked on your phone or maybe the WCNC app and you checked that radar, you noticed it was snowing up towards the mountains, but you weren't seeing anything at the ground. That's called ground truth. That's because it was evaporating before it hits the ground, because the atmosphere is so dry. Now that is changing. We were seeing some snow in those highest elevations, starting to come to an end, but we'll pick right back up as we go over the next couple of hours. Beach Mountain was getting a couple of flurries, but certainly lots of skiers out there enjoying the nice conditions. So this is what we're watching in terms of the setup. So we've got a high pressure system up to the north. This is what's driving in that cold air from the northeast. It gets backed up against the Appalachian Mountains. That's the shallow cold air. And then when you combine that low pressure system, like I mentioned, that's traveling across the southeast, that's bringing warm and moist air ahead and aloft of that colder air. So what does that create? Well, that creates a mixed bag of precipitation, and especially sleet and freezing rain. So sleet, you can see that warm nose there. It actually is able to refreeze before it hits the surface. That's why it bounces. And it is categorized as ice, but it's just these ice pellets that bounce on contact with the ground. Now, freezing rain has a warmer layer, or it kind of thickens out that layer above freezing, so it doesn't have time to freeze before it hits the ground, but the ground temperature is below freezing, so it kind of makes a light glaze across all the surfaces, and that is what we are expecting. So I'll briefly show you the 7-day forecast, and I skipped ahead and we'll go right back to what we're expecting and timing out this for you on Futurecast. So these temperatures are going to be very cold this weekend, staying in the 30s, but as we see those impacts lingering for both Monday and Tuesday morning will be near a record low temperature, 8 degrees, likely with wind chills much colder than that. That record low is actually 6 degrees, and we will be very close to that. So, okay, I lost my place, but I will go back to where I was looking at. Okay, so we've got the wedge, and I want to show you these current temperatures outside because you do have some time to plan ahead, make those preparations, do a last-minute trip to the store. I know I've seen some pictures or images on social media. It looks like there's nothing left at the store. That is not true. I just went yesterday. They are fully stocked every morning, guys. Temperatures 34 degrees, so it's certainly cold, but no issues as you head out right now. 32 in Statesville, 32 in Hickory, and middle to upper 20s over towards those highest elevations. Here's a live look across the greater Charlotte area. It's cloudy, but certainly dry. Again, really no issues if you're heading out, and that will continue until about 3 o'clock. That's when we'll start to introduce at least those light sleet chances, and then this really increasing as we go into the evening hours. So after 6 o'clock, again, is when I advise you to begin to stay home, as we will see this increase in coverage. Then Sunday, here comes that freezing rain event. Temperatures will be staying in the 20s, wind chills much colder than that. This is when we start to see those impacts really escalate for us, beginning late tonight with that sleet and especially that freezing rain. And even after the freezing rain leaves us, those impacts will continue to stay high because it's going to have such a hard time melting and actually drying off before we see it refreeze each and every day. So 2 primary concerns. We've got freezing rain that's going to cover the roads, make travel impossible and impassable. But the main concern in the purple there, we actually put that as the extreme. You want to prepare for long-lasting and widespread power outages. If you think about it, this is going to be a pretty long-lasting freezing rain event all day for your Sunday, and then followed by very cold temperatures. So Duke Energy is going to have a lot of trouble likely getting some of that freezing rain and ice off the power lines and able to restore power, which is why you want to plan ahead and at least have a couple of days of extra food, extra water, anything that you might need going into the next couple of days. So timing this out for you, this morning, no impacts. This afternoon, some snow and some sleet. And then as we go into late tonight, that warm nose really starts to thicken up. We'll see that transition from sleet to all freezing rain Sunday morning, continuing through the afternoon and evening. We just updated these ice totals for you. So in the dark purple swath, that continues from Albemarle, Concord, all the way over towards Lincolnton, Hickory, portions of Morganton, Shelby as well. Really portions of the I-85 corridor, as well as portions of the I-40 corridor. That's where we have the potential to see over ½ inch to up to around 3/4 in some isolated spots. In the blue or purple there, that's near ½ inch. That is major to crippling impacts that we're expecting. It does not take much. When we talk about a 1/10 quarter to ½ inch, these are minor, moderate, and major impacts. So we've been talking about the major category pretty much all week long, not to scare you, but so that you can make decisions based on what we're forecasting. And it does not look good. We're anticipating dangerous travel on the roads, widespread tree damage. If you think the weight added from the ice to the tree, limbs will be falling. They'll fall on power lines. Power lines will be sagging, and a little bit of wind will also create the potential for a little bit of swaying as well. And this could be long lasting as well. I think Duke Energy will have a really hard time restoring this quickly. And while we can't forecast an exact power outage for your exact location, you should prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So Futurecast, this is 1 o'clock. Notice mostly dry. So, if you've got any late morning, early afternoon plans, keep them. Around 6 o'clock, this is when we start to see more spotty sleet arrive, snow up towards the mountains, transitioning into all sleet just around midnight. And then here comes that warm nose developing. And by early Sunday morning, we've got all freezing rain. So just the color coding right here. Sleet is purple, freezing rain is pink. That's what we've got Sunday morning. This continues through the afternoon. Some breaks expected, but that's also the breaks that you're seeing is probably just going to be drizzle as well. So one thing about freezing rain, when it's falling very lightly or drizzling, that actually is able to make it accrete faster on some of the surfaces, which is not good news. When it falls faster, kind of the opposite effect. So it's actually worse when the freezing rain event is light and long duration. It's exactly what we have in the forecast, but there will be some pockets of more moderate freezing rain. It's not going to be, that's not going to be happening all day, but we will have the chance for freezing rain from start to finish, guys. That's what we are expecting. By late Sunday, this pushes out. Monday morning, here comes the very cold temperatures. So that's another aspect of this forecast. Not only are we tracking winter weather, but very cold conditions. So if you are without power, this is why we want you to plan ahead. Have extra blankets, have that space heater. Today, high of 36. We're actually seeing temperatures kind of drop throughout the day as well. Sunday, low temperature of 21 with a high of only about 32 degrees. And guess what? We'll continue those cold conditions as we go into next week as well. That is why we are weather impact alert both Monday and Tuesday. The good news is we'll see some sunshine break out for Monday, I think especially for the second half of the day. That's going to allow for some partial melting. Afternoon temperatures in the middle to upper 30s, but anything that doesn't completely dry is going to refreeze by Tuesday. 8 degrees. That record low is 6. The afternoon temperatures only in the middle 30s. And we've got another hard freeze going into Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. So it's kind of be this continuous cycle. It's going to take a long time for all of the ice to melt. That's what we're worried about in terms of power outages. Again, half an inch of ice is like 500 pounds weighing on those power lines. And when freezing rain falls, it kind of creates this teardrop shape and pulls down on the wires. When you have wind on top of that, which we'll get to, it sways and creates this galloping effect. And we are anticipating that after the freezing rain ends and we have ice accumulation pretty much on all surfaces, it gets very breezy and even windy up towards the high country. We could see those wind gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour, I think peaking right around 25 here in the Charlotte metro, so not nearly as breezy. But there is going to be a concern, especially when we look up towards the mountains. If you remember from Helene, it did so much damage to those trees. And you'll probably notice if you've been up towards the mountains, some of the trees there are still highly damaged. They have unbalanced canopies. They're leaning to one side. So when you get so much weight on one side of the tree, I think we could easily see some major issues over there as well. Right now, it is 34 in Charlotte, 32 in Statesville. Middle to upper 20s over towards those highest elevations. As we go hour by hour, temperatures staying pretty consistent. Middle 30s is what we'll do this afternoon. Again, mostly dry conditions, but really ramping up after 6 o'clock. So on this 7-day forecast, today a high of 36. Stay home after 6 o'clock. We'll start to see that onset of sleet transitioning into a freezing rain for Sunday, and then followed by very cold temperatures as we go into the start of the work week. Each and every morning is going to be freezing temperatures, which is why we are worried about the potential of keeping some of that ice pack as we go throughout the work week. But good news is we have lots of sunshine to look forward to, so there will be melting during the afternoon. We'll just want it to dry off before we hit that refreeze. So keep up to date. We are going to be fully staffed this weekend. Tomorrow we will have full coverage from the mountains all across the Charlotte metro, letting you know the exact conditions we're seeing. We're going to be monitoring road conditions, any major accidents, types of precipitation, so make sure and stay tuned. We will be with you all the weekend long, and if you haven't already, make sure to download that WCNC app. Not only will you get notifications when there's watches or warnings in the area, but you'll also be able to see what is happening and what is falling in real time on that radar. Have a great Saturday, guys.